Hey guys, welcome back. This is part 2 of Skulls and Skulls. So I'll show you now where I'm up to. Last time I was doing the skulls on the guard, and this time part 2 I'll take you from there right up to finish. Done a layer of clear on the guard now, just to seal the candy in, and that's what it looks like. Although I'm doing another piece of art on the top and the back and in the front, right there. So I've got to rub the whole thing back, take the shine off it again. So this clear is just basically to clear the shiny coat, is to lock the layer of candy so it can't bleed through into any other artwork. But that's where we're up to at the moment. And I've given it about a day to dry. So you can see now it's got a nice glossy shine to it. But what I've got to do, I've got more art going on it, and I had to seal the blue candy under a layer of clear coat so it doesn't bleed into the artwork on the top. I wasn't so worried about the skulls along the side. They're meant to recede into the background anyway, so there's a slight tinge of blue through them, which is good. So that's what the pattern looks like that I was doing in white. So I did the white streaks over the top, and then I hit it with a blue candy. So unlike a normal base coat that you would use, candy is different, where a base coat will basically coat everything evenly. So the blue would all be the one shade, whereas with candy it tends to be more like, its properties are very similar to a dye. A candy will, say I've done the background bits in between here previously in the blue, well, it'll always remain darker than the candy I've put over the top on those bits. So the more layers you do, it just gives it more depth. I hope I'm explaining things properly anyway. But what I've got to do now is, I should have, when I clear coated it, I normally do, this time I didn't, I should have used a filter to filter the candy when I mixed it, the clear coat. So this is a cheap filter you get from a paint shop, and of course you get your mixing cups, these things here, which give you all your measurements for your paint. So it tells you exact amounts, and before you pour it into the mixing cup, of course you use a filter. So if there's any bits or sediment or anything in the product when you buy it, it'll catch in the filter and you won't get all these bits that I've got. I've got It's actually not too bad, but if you look up close you can see some little bits. They almost look like dust particles, and you know, that's not really a problem if you're going to buff it, which I probably will do in the end. So the next step now is I'll use wet and dry sandpaper, and I'm using a 1200 on this one because that's all I've got at the moment till I make up a shopping list to go back to the paint shop. And I've got a little bit of water and a tiniest drop of dish liquid. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to block sand because it's obviously got a curved shape to it. So what I'll do is I'll just hand sand, and it's just to take the shiny surface off it again. Keeping in mind it will have a final clear coat once I've put the artwork on it, and the artwork is going to go right there on the front. So let's get started. Using a little bit of 600 grey wet and dry first, and that's just to get the little specks of dust and particles out of the surface of the paint. Once I've got those out, I'll just hit the whole thing with a sheet of 1200 wet and dry. Keeping in mind not to be too rough. Basically all you're trying to achieve is to just take the shine off the surface, and the reason for the 600 grade, as I said, is one or two little particles here and there, and I just want to take those out. Right, now with the 1200. And the reason for taking the shine off the surface is so that when I finish the next piece of artwork, it'll give the clear coat a nice surface it can cling to. You can't paint on a shiny surface because obviously the paint's not going to stick. And be very careful when you are sanding something like this. You don't want to sand around the edges too much, because all that'll happen is you'll go through the paint and you'll expose the metal, and you're going to have to spot repair the paint. So just be very mindful of edges. But keeping in mind, if you do happen to, because I've got to paint again another piece of artwork, means I've got to clear coat it again. If you do happen to accidentally rub through on the edge, or you go through and make a little bit of a boo-boo, I mean, because I've got to clear coat it again, it means you'll be able to just get a little bit of black or whatever colour you're using, and spot up where you've made the mistake, because it's going to be clear coated anyway. should know. I've learned from experience. I've made mistakes, and sometimes it's the best way to learn too. Although I don't recommend purposely making mistakes, but as I've said in previous videos too, always make sure your hands are clean, free from silicone, and if you've been handling food or anything, especially anything that's waxy or contains silicone, because it'll infect the surface, and when you go to clear coat it, it's like oil and water, you can have major problems. Alright, so I've got it fairly shine free, fairly matte. So what I'm going to do now is I'm working off the picture on my phone. I'm just going to do another skull here, and I'm going to freehand this. But I notice I've got a little speck up here. It must have been like a bubble or something in the paint. I'm going to have to do a little bit of a spot up on that before I'm finished. And if you're worried about the overspray from the work you're doing in a certain area, the best way is to mask off the rest of the guard, especially if it's for a client, a customer, and you don't want any overspray infecting the rest of it. I'm going to be fairly careful here, but it is a display piece, but all the same, it's good to be careful. I'll start with a bit of white base. what I'm doing now is just using the white. I'm just basically mapping out the shape of the skull, and of course it's very raw and far from perfect, but just giving me a guide of where everything has to go, and then I can start refining things as I go. She's not finished yet. A long way to go. But that's the skull I'm putting on the front anyway. progress so far. So I started with the white blob of base coat, and I've just sort of progressively worked my way out, shaded, refined. Alright, there you have it, folks. I could go on and on and on, shading and back shading and mucking around for ages, but I'm calling this one done. So now all I've got to do is to add clear coat and let it dry. Well, there it is. Done the clear coat, and basically all I've got to do now is give her a little bit of drying time, and I might even buff it yet. I think she came up pretty good. So that's it for skulls, skulls and skulls. Well, that brings us to the end of another video. But as always, if you like this video and you want to see more content like this, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.